Hello family, it's Teresa with the Shaman's Dream Project. Next in the series of Holy Days and Holidays, I'd like to explore this one with you called Grandparents' Day. This took place recently. I want to say it was like the first week of September. And according to Wikipedia, this holiday came about in 1978 when President Carter signed it into law. And each year, the president is requested to issue a proclamation to people, groups, and organizations to acknowledge the day with appropriate activities and ceremonies. So this holiday that's supposed to honor our grandparents through contrived ceremonies and activities that the president tells you to do. That's the theme throughout the holidays. It's and we've talked about this before, but basically, if our intention is to honor our grandparents, we thank them for the life that we have, because we wouldn't be here without them, and we honor them with our attention and our time and our love. And we show them that we appreciate them by sitting down and listening to the stories that they share and the wisdom that they can impart to us from all their generations or all their decades of life on this planet. And that's like the heartfelt, genuine, individual response to the stated objective of honoring our grandparents. It's not waiting for a certain day in September to go and buy your grandpa a pair of slippers or your grandma a box of chocolates or give them a card or some other material object. But again, this is the theme throughout the holidays. It's contrived, and it usually boils down to consumerism and materialism. And it has a way of getting us lost on the path of our objective. Our objective in this case to honor our grandparents. So according to Wikipedia, this day came about through the efforts of a guy named Michael Goldgar. And he was said to, upon visiting his aunt in a nursing home, he became like some sort of emotion overcame him that motivated him to travel back and forth to Washington, D.C. over many, many years and spending $11,000 of his own money, that's what Wikipedia says, to petition Congress to have this holiday. So maybe this Michael Goldgar felt a still small voice speaking to him, why is my aunt, who's maybe only 50 or 60, in a nursing home? When in the previous generations, when our grandparents reached a stage of where they were physically unable to care for themselves anymore, and they had to move back in with the children, and they would be taken care of in the home, not in a facility. But that was no longer the case back in probably starting in the 1960s, but for sure by the 1970s, because of the debt-based fiat currency system that we live in, and this coupled with typically what is like a insatiable consumerist appetite for a brand new car or a brand new phone or a nice big house or fill in the blank, whatever that is that we spend lots of money on. So both parents had to leave the home to go to work in order to pay the bills and provide for the lifestyle that they felt that they needed to have. And without a constant caregiver, without somebody in the home all the time to be a caregiver to the grandparent, that's when we started seeing all these nursing homes popping up everywhere. So maybe, instead of like contemplating the thought of, wow, what's wrong in our society? Because, back in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, Mom used to be able to stay at home, but now she can't. So what's gone wrong that we don't have a parent in the home to look after the children? Or in this case, a son or a daughter in the home to look after the grandparent. And another issue that maybe Michael could have contemplated if he would have looked into it a little bit further is that, going back, say, 4 or 5 generations, our grandparents didn't really require to have in-home care. Like, they were physically strong and robust people. It's only in a post-1940s, 50s era where we have grocery stores full of processed food and toxic crap filled with chemicals and preservatives. And we have now, modern day vaccination schedules and chemtrails and GMOs and all other manner of environmental pollution, and all other manner of internal pollution when we ingest these toxic foods and drink and air, that we find ourselves getting sicker younger. So perhaps Michael's aunt should not have been in any kind of nursing home or at home with the children, caring for her in any regard. So I'm just guessing, if you were really outraged and inspired through your emotion, why is my aunt in this nursing home all by herself with no family around her to care for her, just these staff who are in many cases overworked, overwhelmed, overstressed, underpaid, and they have to deal with, hundreds of patients a day. And so they're very inclined to receive care that is not the same kind of, it's not with the same kind of love that you would receive from, say, your daughter or your son or your grandson or your granddaughter, or, any other member of your immediate family. So, but no, Michael Goldgar did not contemplate these issues about contaminated environments and toxic internal environments that make us sick, and why somebody isn't in the home able to care for the grandparent, or in this case, it wasn't even a grandparent, it was an aunt, when she does become ill and when she can no longer take care of herself. So rather than a society asking these kinds of questions, we just have a holiday, right? And ignore all the other telltale signs of sort of like danger, Will Robinson, like, don't go down this route anymore, because look at the fruit that this tree is bearing. Do we want more of that, or do we want to stop and question the path that we've gone down and start to look at the different factors that play into the situation where, one, no one's able to be at home to care for anyone because they're having to work all the time with this debt-based fiat debt slave currency system, and two, why are our families, why are people we know getting sicker sooner than what they normally would have done? So that would be the holy, right, versus the holly. That would be genuine reflection and analytical thought, and allowing our emotions to drive us down a path where we reflect and look at the things that in society that are creating these undesirable situations, and see what we can do to heal them or fix them or build something different, right? But no, we have a holiday, right? So the Wikipedia also says, I'm going to read this from my notes here, but Wikipedia also says that this holiday was proposed by a lady named Marian McQuade, a housewife who, quote unquote, worked to educate people about the important contributions senior citizens made. And that's true, back in the day, like, you could, in theory, go out, like in the 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever, go out and work a job for 20 years and get your pension, and then, or get your Social Security check, and your Social Security check and or your pension would be more than sufficient for you to be able to cover all your bills and put food on the table and be able to now use your free time, say like this last 20 years of your life after you've been slaving away working, at whatever job. Now you're in a position that you have more time on your hands, and in theory you also have the energy and the physical stamina to go out and make contributions to the society. So that's another telltale sign that that's another problem with the system is that when we get sicker younger, we don't have the same amount of energy to say retire at age 60 and then spend the next 10 or 20 years, I don't know, fill in the blank, whatever your passion is, to pursue that passion. So like all other holidays, this one was fabricated to appease and distract the general public from an inquiry into why we have a society that not only creates these undesirable situations of our, never mind our grandparents, but our aunts in this case, according to the story, being in nursing homes. And why do we have a society in general that pays homage to the young? I mean, it's everywhere you turn, on the TV and the magazines, music videos. It's always, where the young are put on a pedestal, and the old are just sort of ignored. Like nobody has any time for old people. They're useless eaters. They get in the way. And this kind of mentality that is programmed into us through various programming devices like the television, the radio, the newspapers, the magazines, the MTV, the music videos, social media. So basically, this is again just illustrating like what our intentions are. Like if our intentions are truly to honor our grandparents, or honor the elderly in general, what do we do every day with our actions? What do we do every day with our thoughts and our beliefs and our deeds? What do we believe with the programming that we receive in society? How do we believe when we look at elderly people, be they our grandparents or our aunts and uncles or just complete strangers that you meet in the street? How do we perceive them? What sort of honor do we have in our hearts for them? What sort of time do we make for them? How do we show them that we love them and we appreciate them? Because there's a big difference between doing that and not doing that and just having a holiday. Basically, just wanted to leave it with that, and lots of different ways you can illustrate this. You can even look back into your own family history, or the ancestors in general, that people lived longer, healthier lives, and they actually had a few years from the time that they sort of retired from work and had more time to devote to their interests, whether that's volunteer activities in society or spending more time with the grandparents or grandchildren or whatever the case is. So that's kind of what the situation devolves into when we don't pay attention to the real causation, to the real factors behind a society that has people getting sicker and sicker and younger at younger ages. And when we have a society that doesn't actually promote or condition those who consume this programming of society to honor and respect the elders on a regular basis. So our ancestors did not trivialize the elders like this. There was genuine respect for the elders back in the day, and they were cherished. And really, they should be, even if you don't have a close relationship with your grandparents, just, if nothing else, you can thank them because it's through them that you received the life that you have. And, if this resonates with you at all, I encourage you to look at this and every other holiday out there and notice this nature of it being contrived as opposed to being genuine, of it having a stated objective, but then not aligning the actions with the stated objective, and then ending up way out there in left field, completely lost and further down the path of self-delusion. So, if this video has resonated with you, or if it has been helpful for you, if it has encouraged you to change the way you look at the so-called normal things in society, like the holidays in this case, then it is my honor and a blessing for me to share this with you. And I would encourage you to have such conversations with your family, your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, and everyone you come across. Because when we have a society that truly, honestly cherishes the elderly, we have a strong society. And when we have a society where our aunts and uncles, and let's face it, family, in the year of 2020 on Caesar's calendar of fake time, with all this environmental toxic situation on our hands, and with all the vaccines and the GMOs and the toxic things that we put in our body, and the chemtrails and the 5G and 4G and all this, we're no longer facing a situation that Michael Goldgar was facing in the late 60s, early 70s, of his aunt being required to be essentially put into a facility because she was so physically incapacitated. But now it would be ourselves and even our children. Even our children being placed in these kinds of facilities. So, when the average 5-year-old in the United States is obese and vaccinated and drugged up on sugar and, all other manner of things, what's their life expectancy going to be like? What's their quality of life going to be like? Who's going to take care of them? They're, in many cases, not going to be able to have children of their own, so they're going to come back to mom and dad, who are also sick before their time and physically incapacitated, and in many cases lacking the economic resources to take care of even themselves, let alone the children, who in theory are supposed to take care of the parents as they get old in age. So that's what I wanted to share with you about this particular holiday, and how I illustrate our stated objectives or our intentions and our actions, and how those two don't typically line up when we participate in the holi-days, which are issued by, remember, one of two organizations. Gubernmente, government, that's the Latin word for government, and it means mind control. And the other one that issues the holi-days is religion, or the relegare, which in Latin means to tie up, to bind, or to hold back from progress. So when we subscribe to the holi-days that are issued by one of these two organizations, I'm going to let you form your own opinion, but as for me, it's pretty clear, not a good idea. Thank you, family, for tuning in and allowing me to share these thoughts with you. And I always welcome your feedback and comments below. And if you have any stories that you would like to share, that would be great, Thank you so much, family. I love you very much. Namaste.